All right. I have pictures for you. Not a lot of text, so this should be interesting. I'm among 3 generations of people who could be diagnosed with chronic fatigue syndrome. There's the grandmas, I'm one of those, my daughter, possibly, and a child. In 1986, my doctor said, whatever this crud is, I think you have it. I like that word, crud, because that's what it is. The names are too hard associated with names, so I often use the word crud rather than try to say ME or CFS, and I use our associations, Wisconsin ME and CFS Association, established in 1987. Images. Especially now after a day and a half, I think everyone in this room can understand that we all have values, we all have ethics, we all want to feel that we're cooperative and there's teamwork, there's a sense of fairness. I don't know how well you can see some of the, well, we're reasonable people. We like images of things being whole. Humans like closure. So oftentimes there's logos that are around here. We'd like things to be complete. Unfortunately, in this illness, there's a disconnect. So here we are, the patients, a lot of us, let's say 1 million, ages 18 to 59. We feel, I'm representing patients here, we're the tiny dudes at the top of the teeter-totter there, and we keep getting slapped around. That's what it feels like. I mean, I've been at this for 30 years. It's like, oh, no, not again, when a new finding comes out, or oh, no, not again. And we don't know, really, what that power is down there. NIH, CDC, I mean, I don't know. How long is this going to last? When is there going to be some help for us? So we know it has something to do with money, and it has something to do with medicine, obviously. And here's some grandmas up here. Could be their children there, and again, their children, the younger ones. Hope is a one-way street right now for most patients. I'm talking quite a bit about Wisconsin. We're a very old group. And, you change how you feel about the illness, you change whatever, but it's not like there's anyone out there helping you. There's no physicians, et cetera. Because of all that, because there's a disconnect, big disconnect. We like, as people, I think as human beings, we like pieces of the puzzle to fit. We like to create those whole things and walk away feeling good. With this illness, there's definitely a disconnect, and the pieces of the puzzle don't fit. People are dying. Now you say, okay, people are dying. Well, I've been watching this for 30 years, and yes, it's certainly anecdotal. 1999, I stopped keeping a list of cancer and CFS patients just from Wisconsin. I had 20 people on my list, lymphomas, leukemias, breast cancer, and so on. I thought, well, why am I doing this? I mean, it's anecdotal. They're dead. I also stopped doing with children. I had 66 kids in 50 families. I stopped that in 1999. There wasn't much I could do. Very little information. I don't know how well you can see, probably on that one. I like this. Fatigue is a 5-cent symptom. It's still used as a, let's try and define or qualify or, do studies on fatigue. And of course, patients hate it because chronic fatigue syndrome is not about fatigue at all. So back to this, 3 generations. My job here today is to try to fit a piece of the puzzle, into the whole, the one that I think fits quite nicely. All right, we need to talk about money. We all know this, another elephant in the room. I like that one too. The CFS Special Emphasis Panel was created in the early 90s. You're all familiar with the CFS Special Emphasis Panel in hopes of, in the beginning, it was pretty much all grants related to CFS. Now, I've been working at this, I might say I've been working at this since 2003 to understand the grant-making process, and it's been an incredible amount of work. So there's a lot of FOIAs. I have all the sources. At any rate, this first information source is the Government Accounting Office, good baseline, 2000, the investigation. Fiscal years 1988 through 1999, the funding rate for CFS was 24%. They counted only those grants, it's notable, where CFS is the primary focus, versus 28% back then. That 24% was low, and I'm aware now that that's changed, and we'll get to it. All right. I was able to get the number of grants, actually by mistake, but I was able to get 06, 07, 08. CFS SEP reviewed 161 grants. The funding rate for CFS, where CFS is the primary focus, was 7%. The funding rate for non-CFS awards was 11%. There's been a shift in what the CFS SEP does. So CFS SEP no longer facilitates funding for research, CFS research. So we know there's a squeeze. Everyone knows there's a squeeze. Here's a 10-year profile. You can read this. 24 new grants, $7.6 million. Y'all, here are CFS researchers. Have used your money well, because we haven't had much of it. Three CFS research centers closed in 2002. We know that. I decided to put renewed funding. I mean, you can't renew something if it doesn't exist in the first place. So, of course, you have this going way down. So the total renewals are $28.7 million. And I calculated, with much help, because I am not mathematically inclined, it was very difficult, but at any rate, $36.4 million in 10 years. Sounds like a lot of money, but, $3.64 per person. A patient said to me, well, isn't the bottom line, this mysterious disease is still mysterious. Now, we've heard a lot in the last day and a half about all the things that we know, but the patients, it's not getting, the information is not to them, and there's no hope for anything better, at least in Wisconsin. Squeeze continues. I looked at intramural funding. I mean, I think this is terribly revealing. 1987 to 2002, 97 CFS-related studies, NCI, NIAID, lots of interest, 51 CFS-specific. What I do is I find the author, I look for publications, I read the abstracts. I have done that since 2003. I want to be very sure, and I'm sure I'm probably wrong on some of them, but I want to be as clear as I can be what I include and what I don't include as a CFS-specific study. But I look at 2003 and 2008, we were kind of put on the ice flow with zero related. It's right there, the information is there to find. I think what happened sometime between 2000 and 2002, there was a change in the NIH policy. I have no proof of that. I think it's probably way high up. And it led to a steep decrease in extramural and zero intramural interest in CFS. On the other hand, 2009, 2010, 6 CFS-related studies, all 6 CFS-specific on pathogens. We heard from Michael Dean this morning. So the bottom line is now we have someone's attention, and of course that's the blood spatter. Another problem. Now, there could be argument about this, but let me tell you, CFS studies designated as CFS may not have CFS as a primary focus. Very difficult to go through all the FOIAs, then go through the office's budget, that's different documents, try to integrate them and figure out what was really spent and what was a CFS-specific grant. I mean, if the GAO could do it, I could do it. I had to be very careful about it. It took me 7 years. All right, so they showed that the reported spending and actual spending in CFS they're not the same. You have to carefully look at this. About $60 million over the course of 10 years. Interesting, a way to get funding. PIs state that CFS is a priority, or it's in the search terms, or put, item number 4 in the grant is to look at CFS. That doesn't happen, but it's a way to get that grant funded. I'm wondering about accountability. The studies that I don't count, and by the way, on the table back there, there's a 3-page paper on this with charts as addendums on studies that are actually CFS related. But there's a problem here with money, a great deal of money, the difference between 36.4 million and 60 million. Those studies are not CFS related. I mean, I looked at blood, questionnaires, rats, anything where I could find that the PI might be interested in our patient population. It wasn't there. So we have a bottom line, piece of the puzzle, $3.64 per year per person. It's not very much. And in 2004, when I first talked about this, I called these such as studies. We're going to look at behavioral insomnia treatments in illnesses such as, so this, and this. And then, these folks don't publish anything, and yet another one is a biobank for fibromyalgia, which actually doesn't exist, but it was funded and counted as CFS money.